Hello, Africa fans. Welcome to my YouTube channel. A very hot topic in Africa right now is the dispute over the critical Nile water resources between Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. It is a very hot topic because it has historical implications for the entire continent. The general fear is that the new Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, also known as GERD, G-E-R-D, on the Blue Nile could start a war between Ethiopia and Egypt, with Sudan being caught in the middle. It is extremely important that the ongoing talks and negotiations between these three countries be fair and balanced. So what's the background to this issue? The core of the issue is the Nile River itself. It is the longest river in the world. In fact, it spans more than 4,000 miles and runs across 11 countries in the continent. At its origin, it's split into two. The Blue Nile, which originates out of Ethiopia and accounts for about 85% of the water flow, and the White Nile, which originates out of Uganda, accounts for the other 15% of the water flow. Both rivers join to make one joint Nile River in the Sudan at 100% water capacity. And that area where they join is a huge tourist destination, by the way. The Nile River flows straight into Egypt and into the Mediterranean Sea. Africa's largest hydroelectric dam is now located in Ethiopia, and it has caused severe tensions with Egypt, which has called it an extreme threat, and Egypt worries that it will reduce their country's share of the Nile waters. Ethiopia says that the $4.6 billion dam, billion, not million, will be an engine of development that will pull millions of their people out of poverty. Sudan, literally in the middle, worries about the effects on its own dams that are existing, though it stands to benefit from access to cheap electricity, which Ethiopia is planning to offer them. Historically, the Nile overall has been essential for civilization, particularly in Egypt and Sudan. Without water from the Nile, there would have been no food, no people, no state, no pyramids, and no monuments, and even no Kemet. And Kemet being the rich, dark soil, and all that came out of the nourishment of the Nile. Now, for almost a decade, Ethiopia has built this controversial Grand Renaissance Dam on the Blue Nile. Again, it is the largest dam in Africa, so large that it will take 7 years to fill it. Now that it's complete, the impact of the entire region where the Nile River flows could be profound. Now, for just as long as the dam was being constructed, about a decade, talks between the three countries over the operation and filling of the mega dam have faltered. But everything has taken on a new urgency now because the dam is now being filled with water, and tensions between the three countries have increased as a result. Now, the sticking points in this talks have been how much water Ethiopia will release downstream from the dam, particularly during a multi-year drought, and how will Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan resolve any future disputes. Now, the purpose of this large dam in Ethiopia is to create hydropower, electricity, in the same way the dams in both Sudan and Egypt are being used for. Particularly the Aswan Dam in Egypt, which is smaller but well known for its usage and its value to Egypt. Okay, so let's break this down by each country's position. Let's begin with Ethiopia, where the dam exists. The Ethiopian media describes that the round one filling of the dam is a great thing to see. It is an important milestone for them. Many years have passed during this construction, and Ethiopians have eagerly waiting to see the dam's completion and its numerous anticipated benefits, especially the end of power interruption in the country and the acceleration of the economic growth, meaning there will be a potential of more jobs and a better life for them. A lot of sacrifices have been made along the way by the Ethiopians in the past decade of the dam's construction. In Ethiopia, there is a sense of pride that the dam, very unusual for this project this size, was largely self-funded, even with ordinary Ethiopians having contributed their own money, pretty much a countrywide crowdfunding effort. And they raised billions of dollars. Now, the Ethiopians sense that the Egyptians want them to offer a lot, like having equal control, but that Egypt, they feel, is not ready to offer them anything in negotiations. So the sense in Ethiopia is that Egypt wants to control how Ethiopia uses the dam. But Ethiopians say they do not want to discuss with Egypt a water sharing agreement with regard to their dam. The Egyptian view. Now, the Nile and Egypt are intricately connected in history. For thousands of years, Egypt controlled the Nile. Egypt sees the Nile as a survival issue, where 90% of its irrigation and drinking waters come straight from the Nile. Egypt has always called the Nile its historical right. Now, currently, water from the Nile meets the needs of more than 100 million Egyptians. They don't want that to change. So Egypt says the Ethiopian dam would be an existential threat to their overall economy. Now, this concern and fear over the Ethiopian dam in Egypt is legitimate. It's a legitimate concern, which is why they have a louder voice about it. Now, Sudan historically has long been caught between the competing interests of Egypt and Ethiopia. Sudan stands to benefit from the Ethiopia's dam, which will reduce flooding downstream and offer cheaper electricity to them. But the Sudanese have raised their own fears over the operation and the safety of the GERD and say it could endanger Sudan's own existing dams. Sudan fears that the dam will pose serious environmental and social risks in their country and may endanger both the safety of millions of Sudanese living on the banks of the Blue Nile. Sudan claims that currently the Nile River water levels have already dropped as the reservoir behind Ethiopia's Grand Renaissance Dam is starting to fill. And this could threaten the safety of some 20 million Sudanese living downstream and damage the country's floodplain agricultural system. Nevertheless, the dam's enormous hydroelectric potential that might allow Sudan future power sharing arrangements is considered by the Sudanese. The project's natural proximity to Sudan puts the Sudan in an inviolable position, such as avoiding destructive floods, and presents an opportunity for agricultural transformation. So, while Egypt sees nothing positive about the dam right now, Sudan has a more nuanced position about it. Now, my conclusion on the issue so far is really more questions than answers. If the question of the Nile River waters were sensitive in the centuries before the 1900s, when Ethiopia and Egypt each had populations of about 10 million or less, what will happen over the next 20 years as their populations each will surpass 100 million? And the collective population of the Nile River Basin countries reaches 600 million. That's a lot. Now, the Grand Renaissance Dam poses a question as basic as water itself. Who owns the Nile? All those countries which it runs through, or to those who've always claimed it? Has the time for a final reckoning arrived? Is it that Ethiopia will have the power over future events? Will Egypt and Sudan's claims to historical rights become history? In the context of a difficult history, is violence a possibility? In modern times, post-colonialism even, a war breaking out between two or more African nations is unheard of. There have been and are internal civil wars and conflicts, but no active wars between African countries. It would be unprecedented and hopefully not something that will happen. We should all remain optimistic that good solutions for all can be achieved through diplomacy and leadership. As a conflict resolution specialist myself, it is my professional opinion that talks and negotiations be limited to the parties involved and the African Union, period. Any outside influence beyond that will surely complicate the situation and possibly show bias for one country over another. We don't want that to happen. So let's see how this all plays out. I hope you found this explanation useful. Please chime in with your comments or ask questions in the comments section below. Hit the like button and subscribe so I can deliver new content on the continent of Africa. Until next time, Hakuna Matata, it means no worries. Bye-bye.